So earlier today, Pat McAfee discussed Jordan Love, the Packers, the current contract situation, and he spoke with Michael Lombardi, who had some interesting takes on the discussion between the Packers and Jordan Love. So let's give this a listen, and I'll give my thoughts.
Which leads me, and you talk about, do you want to guarantee or average per year? And there's one particular agent that said, you got it. And there's one rookie contract quarterback that is coming up with said agent. Green Bay Packers, let's go to boots on the ground, Ty Schmidt.
Yeah, Lombo. So what will the situation with Jordan Love be? Because obviously you're kind of only dealing with the second half of last year where he played so well because the first half wasn't great. But going into those negotiations, like, will Brian Gutekunst just kind of understand, like, hey, I'm going to have to fight tooth and nail here because David Mulugeta is representing Jordan Love, and even though it's only a half season worth of tape and like what he did, but where is he going to fall in? Because I just assume with Mulugeta being his agent that he's going to get the top, he's going to set the bar, and then, whether Tua goes next or Dak or whoever is going to kind of fall in after that.
Well, I think that's the real issue, right? And so this is the hardest contract to do because this is a little bit like buying on spec, right? It's almost like you're going to build a spec house and you got to sell it. David's going to argue that his players should be paid like the guys that have the money. Whereas the Packers, Russ Ball, who will do the contract, not Good, Russ Ball's going to argue that we'll pay on the come. We'll certainly pay a base level, but we want to see more of this player playing at the level. And they're going to have to find a way to meet in the middle, whether it's through incentives, whether it's through yearly buildup in terms of increasing the salary per year. But to turn around and just say after 8 games, I'm going to give you $55 million a year with 80% of it guaranteed, that's something that I'm sure the Packers don't want to enter into because you've got to look at this. What happens if the 8 games were wrong? What happens if the fourth quarter of the 49er game ends up being the way he played? Look, I think he's played great. But you look at the first half of the season, they were protecting the team from him. In the second half of the season, he was winning games with them. So it's two different things. Remember, they went into New York and lost to Tommy DeVito and turned the ball over.
Well,
so it hasn't been just a rise. There hasn't been just a rise. So there's an argument on both sides. These are the hard contracts to do. The contracts that are easy to do is when there's no argument on one side. Like there's an argument to be made here, and you've got to find a middle ground. And I think they have to. And this is why I think this one will be hard for them to do before the season kicks off. Maybe they can, but that's the one. Whereas the other ones, I mean, I think to me it's going to come down to the Rams saying, yeah, we want to do something with you, Matthew. We definitely want to handle it. Look, Love's going to get paid. It's just how are they going to structure the contract? That's the issue.
So with where we are right now, it's the end of June, about a month away from Packers training camp. And what he said there, very, very valid. The fact that there are arguments on both sides, the Packers can bring that up and say, well, he only played really good in 8-9 games, and because of that, we don't want to give him the same kind of guarantees that maybe some of these other quarterbacks who have who have shown more tape and shown more consistency over a longer time span. Where Jordan Love's agent probably saying, well, that's the kind of guy he is, that's the kind of money we want, and so I was just thinking just now. If Jordan Love, wants to get that kind of crazy guaranteed money and, be one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL, even when it comes to guarantees, would he be willing to play out the 2024 season without a new deal and then be able to get those kind of guarantees after the season? Because I would assume if Jordan Love, let's say the Packers and him didn't get a deal done, where I think they are going to before the season starts, I think they will come to an agreement. But let's say they didn't. If they didn't, and Jordan Love played at the same level he did at the final stretch of the season, all of 2024, I feel like the Packers would have no problem giving him the kind of guaranteed money that maybe he's looking for right now at this point, because they would have some more confidence about the consistency at which he'll play. And so right now, that's probably why this is still taking a while, because there could be some, disagreements as to, the guaranteed money and how much he should get. And when we look back to 2008 with Aaron Rodgers, he got paid after, about midway through the season, he became the fourth highest paid QB in the NFL on a per year basis. But his guarantees were a good amount less than what Tony Romo had gotten a year previously. And odds are it was because Aaron had only showed so much starting in the NFL. And so the Packers didn't want to give him a ton of guaranteed money, which I think makes sense at that point in the season. And my guess is right now that Brian Gutekunst probably believes that, Jordan Love can play at the top tier level he showed to end last season, because I think that the fact that the young receivers were starting to play well, everything started clicking, the Packers figured things out. I think it's going to continue into 2024, but when you're having to make these kind of decisions as an organization, you don't want to get this wrong, because let's say, for example, they give him a crazy salary and 80% guarantees, whatever that is, and then he does what I think most don't think will happen, where he plays like he did during that losing streak and doesn't get back to his former self. If that happened, that would be bad news for the Packers. I do not think that's going to happen, but I see why you may want to prepare for that just in case. In the off chance that happens, you don't want to be stuck paying a guy a ton of money. And now I don't think we've seen many quarterbacks do what Jordan Love has done, even in his first season, when it comes to his, just the kind of plays he makes, his footwork, his arm strength, all that kind of stuff. So I think Jordan Love deserves big money, but it's going to be interesting to see sort of where this contract ends up in the end when it comes to guarantees and all that stuff. And I still do think we'll see a contract done before the season. Now let's continue here.
What if it came down to just like a 2-year deal? And obviously 4 or 5 year deals are what everybody does, but he's in an interesting situation, not because of his own doing. Obviously, he was drafted in, and not because, the Packers are the one that put him in a situation where he was only able to play a little bit of football to prove what his worth was before his contract is up. What if it was like a shorter deal and it was like more, like 2 years, $100 million, $80 million guaranteed, $10 million each year in incentives that you can get up to 100, and then he's a free agent in 2 years from now with no franchise tag, or they can renegotiate that second year and get the long-term deal so they can get better eyes. Would that be a thought, or there's no way Mulugeta lets that happen?
Well, it's to me, it's when you're guaranteeing money, you want years. So time equals money in all negotiations. So the more guarantee I give you, the more years I want back. And so if you're asking me to guarantee 80% of the deal and I'm only getting 2 years, why am I doing that? If I do a 2-year contract, I really don't, and I'm Jordan Love, you don't need to guarantee anything in writing because I'm going to earn it all. So that's what David's going to argue. You're not going to cut him after a year. He's too good of a player. So why won't you just guarantee everything? Okay, that makes sense. But now I've guaranteed, I only got 2 years on these guarantees. Let me have more years. And then you're talking about high cap numbers. Now we're talking about percentage of the cap going way up because we're only doing a 2-year contract. So it's a challenge. And I think Green Bay's smart enough to figure it out. Russ Ball's done a lot of contracts in his career. They've got the cap room. They certainly have the cash to pay this thing out. And I think that ultimately they'll do that.
Hey,
but they got to figure out what the right number is.
Yeah, and if there were to be a 2-year deal like Pat McAfee brought up, the only problem in 2 years – the Packers would obviously have to give him another new deal. And we've seen how the quarterback market has already gone up a ton. It's going to go up a lot next season, especially if Dak Prescott hits the open market as a free agent. If the Cowboys don't sign him, someone else is probably going to pay him a lot of money because, teams are desperate out there for quarterbacks who can play even like Dak Prescott, even though he struggled in the playoffs. So if the Packers gave Jordan a 2-year deal, they'd probably have to pay him, like $70 million a year in 2 seasons from now. And so if you do that longer term deal, of course, it saves you money for a while until you have to give him another deal in however many years, 4 or 5 years. And of course, at that point, it's going to be even higher. But I think best case scenario for the Packers is 4-year, 5-year deal. That way the cap hit is lower in these early years. It gets bigger as time goes by. And then you have that ability to build around Jordan Love, and I think especially with all these young receivers on cheap rookie deals, the lower you're able to keep Jordan Love's cap hit the next 2 seasons, the more you're going to be able to do in the next couple of years when it comes to adding free agents, even next off season.
No matter what the number is and how they figure it out, how about these figuring it out again at quarterback? How about it?
It's amazing, right?
Isn't it?
Like this throw he makes here against cover 2 where he reads it. It wasn't even like he didn't see it. He moved his feet. Watch him move his feet to the side to get away from the penetration and throw the ball. That's a rare thing to do. So his eye level's down, and then he throws the ball down the field, eye level down to eye level up, which is hard to see in players when you watch them. So, yeah, look, and I think you got to give credit to Matt LaFleur in the sense that he figured out what he needed to do. Now, I think the interesting thing about the Packers this year is they replaced Aaron Jones with Josh Jacobs. How is that actually going to work? I thought Aaron Jones was really a key to what they did the second half of the season. And you're going to get more of this stuff where he's going to run around like this. Now Jeff Hafley, the defensive coordinator.
I think that, Josh Jacobs being here instead of Aaron Jones, I think that it's going to be better for the whole season because Aaron Jones dealt with so many different injuries. Josh Jacobs, seemingly less injury prone and a younger running back. And so I think that I don't think there's going to be a massive drop off from Aaron Jones to Josh Jacobs.
I think that's the key hire. We don't talk enough about that. Who they hired as some of these assistant coaches are going to make a big difference for some of these teams as well.
Oh, yeah, you talk about new defense coordinator there. I completely forgotten. We don't talk about him as we pivot away from the Green Bay Packers, who certainly have a lot of decisions happening.
All right, so that's pretty much all my thoughts from that video. If you want Packers content, feel free to subscribe down below. I put out all Packers content on this channel, usually 2 days a week. So subscribe if you want more of it. Turn on the notifications so you don't miss any Packers content, Packers news, and I'll see you guys next time.